Hey everybody, Corey here, coming at you with another knife review video. Today we are taking a look at the Holt Bladeworks Morpheus. If you're new around here, consider subscribing. I try to put out knife-related content on a regular basis, but at this rate, it's more like a video a month. However, I want to open this video by saying, I'm known for being pretty critical when it comes to knives. I just want to start this video by letting you know, if I was told I could only keep one knife in my collection, there is a very good chance that this would be it. And there is no doubt in my mind that 100% it's in my top three. Top three knives I've ever handled, top three knives I've ever owned. I just want to put that out there. This review is going to be overwhelmingly positive. And I also want to let you know that this knife in this configuration, which is as bland and as cheap as it gets, is $875. Now, some of you may get turned off by that, some of you might not. But I can wholeheartedly tell you right now, if I was ever going to tell you that a knife was worth $875, it would be this one. As a matter of fact, I'm confident it would be any Holt, but we can talk about that in a little bit. Let's do some size comparisons to get started. Here it is next to the Ontario Knives Rat number 2, coming in about half an inch longer in overall length than the Ontario Knives Rat number 2. This is not a particularly large knife. For reference, here it is next to a Spyderco Paramilitary 2, coming in almost an inch shorter in overall length than the Spyderco Paramilitary 2. Now, if you're still interested in this knife and you're still interested in this video, you're probably someone who's aware of a knife like this. This is the Koenig Knives Aureus. I'm going to show you a few more knives around this price range just in case you're familiar and just in case you want to see them. Obviously smaller than the Koenig Knives Aureus. Here it is next to its brother from another mother, the Skiff-made Blades Culprit. Just a hair shorter than the Culprit, maybe quarter inch, maybe half inch if you're being generous. Here it is next to a big boy, the Herman Knives Slim, substantially smaller than the Slim, over an inch smaller in overall length. And then last but not least, here it is next to a Craig Brown Knives Cortex. Spoiler alert, this is not a Cortex video, but the Cortex is also in my top 3, and it is the only knife that clearly holds a candle in my collection right now to the Holt Morpheus. So I just want to say that. If you're familiar with Craig Brown's work and you haven't had a Holt, use that as a reference point. Now, this is going to be surprisingly short, considering that I absolutely love this knife. And the reason for that is, if I was to go over everything I loved about this knife, it would just be the same story. Think about everything you could ever want in a knife. Think about pocket clip tension. Think about fit and finish. Think about the intricacy and the conciseness of the milling work. Think about the finish on a blade, the symmetry of the secondary bevel. Think about the action and its ability to be tuned. Think about everything you would ever care. Think about centering, blade play, or lock rock. Think about everything. This knife does it well. This knife does it as well as I could ever expect an $875 knife to do it. Okay? This is one of the very few knives in the world where I can say, or that I've handled, I won't say in the world, that I've handled, out of all the knives that I've handled, I can't tell you that this knife isn't worth $875 because there is essentially nothing that I have a problem with on this knife. It is executed flawlessly for all intents and purposes in absolutely every single regard. Now, there's a preference. You might see that action and you go, ugh, I hate gravity shut knives. I'll be the first person to tell you, you can just tighten that pivot down a little bit if you don't want this thing to gravity shut. The people over at Holt might tell you that it's over tightened at that point, but honestly, if your concern is that you don't like a knife that drops shut like that, you can just tighten the pivot down. Let's talk about one thing that this knife does that no other knife, to my knowledge, does or has the capability to do. It's going to be a little hard to see. Right around there, tip of my fingernail, between the lock bar and the rest of the scale, you see a little glint, little itty-bitty shimmer. It's hard to show you on camera. That is actually an extremely small head of a screw. It's a hex key screw. They give you a tool, you can adjust that screw, and that is going to change the firmness of your detent. You can do it while the knife is entirely assembled. You can change the action of your knife without even disassembling it. It's extremely easy. You can do it anytime you want. That's something very unique, very interesting about this knife. If I had to complain about one thing, and I'm being serious, this is the one thing. I don't care that it's not deep carry. It's deep enough carry, okay? If you don't like this, tough, okay? I have one beef with this knife. If I was going to beat on this knife, if I was actually going to use this knife, if you wanted to buy this knife and you said, you know what, I want to throw $900 at a knife and it's going to be the one knife that I use for the rest of my life, forever, blah, 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 look at that Lockup. Now, I am the second owner of this knife, but the first owner confirmed that it was never used. It was never used, okay? We're looking at like 90% Lockup after I, give it a good, if I was, using this thing and grabbing it, that is really, really, really close. You can see the detent ball is almost touching the other scale. I am not an expert when it comes to lock bar wear and tear or tang wear and tear, if you want to call it that, but I'm not entirely confident that this knife could be used for the absolute rest of your life without developing, I don't know, maybe some sort of lock rock, some sort of wear. But I tell you what, the Holts will take care of you. If you need to send this in to have it repaired, they're going to do what they need to do to get this knife working the way that it should be working again. So that's pretty cool, okay? So from a knife perspective, that's it. I cannot emphasize enough how flawlessly, absolutely, every single aspect of this knife is executed. I truly cannot stress it enough. The blade finish, the semi-mirror, absolutely beautiful. They send it to you with a mirror edge, absolutely beautiful, absolutely love it. If we want to get a little bit meta, okay, here's a complaint that I have about Holt as a company. The way they drop their knives is kind of ridiculous. They technically, from time to time, it's extremely rare, they will actually put a knife for sale on their website. The vast majority of the time, they are selling these knives in their Facebook group. Yes, they are selling these knives in their Facebook group. And it typically happens, I'd say 95% of the time, it's one of two ways, okay? It's either first come, first serve, which is the first person to say the words in or I want it or something that clearly states that they want the knife, they get it. They have the opportunity to pay for it, okay? The other one that's more common is that the first 10 people who say in or I want it, something to that degree, they will be entered into a drawing very shortly after, and the Holts will pick from those 10 people, and the lucky winner will have the opportunity to buy a knife. That alone is very, very annoying. You have to be on Facebook. You have to be there at the right time. You either have to be lucky or you have to be sitting there all day, every day, praying that you randomly find a knife that you are allowed to purchase from them, right? That's very annoying. The other thing I'll say, and this is, again, we're getting really meta here. There are some people, and you can spend your money however you want. Everyone should be allowed to spend their money however they want. But it feels like in that group, there are some people who want nothing more in life than to buy every single Holt that is ever posted for sale from the Holts. There are people in that group who have 20 of these knives, and they still take the chance to jump at owning another one of these knives. Now, don't get me wrong, that could be a testament to how awesome these knives are. But at the same time, it's very disheartening when you see that someone just got their 10th Holt, and you've just been trying to get your first Holt for however long you've been trying for, right? I would like to see Holt somehow change the way that they do their drops, produce more knives, or restrict the amount of knives that you can buy in a year, or something like that. And I know that's kind of anti-capitalist, but it's very hard to get a hold of one of these, and that's extremely annoying. You have a better chance buying one of these on Reddit on the secondary than you do actually getting one brand new from the Holt. So, unfortunately, even though I can wholeheartedly say there's a good chance that this is probably the best knife I've ever handled. Clearly, it's gonna be hard for you to get one. I still have to recommend it, but I do have to tell you that. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this is something different for you, right? I'm usually very critical about the knives, and I'm also very sorry if you feel like this wasn't enough detail on a knife like this. Plenty of people have done plenty of reviews on all of the different Holt models. I don't need to say anything that they've already said. If you want to see even more information, go watch one of those videos. The greatest service I can do to you is not bore you by telling you every single thing that's right with this knife, because pretty much every single thing is right with this knife. Take my word for it. I have never more confidently recommended a knife to someone. If you've got the money and you're actually wild enough to spend it on a pocket knife, full confidence, you will not regret purchasing any of the Holt knives. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you all next time.